Engage Studios. All of our faithful listeners, all of our subscribers, we are so excited because today we start a brand new endeavor.
Brand new.
Called
For the Love of God.
For the Love of God.
And then, I'm sorry, I screwed that up. Backtrack. We're starting a new series called What's Love Got to Do with It?
Yeah, and you probably, when you heard that, did you sing it in Tina Turner's voice? Because that's what I do. So before we actually get into this, just a quick explanation. So this is For the Love of God here at Engage Studios. We're sitting at Faith Presbyterian Church. And we just got done with a series of YouTube videos. Now we're going to switch gears and do something a little bit different. We're going to review love songs. And so this is going to allow us to speak to and listen to a huge selection of songs. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at 1 Corinthians 13 because we believe as Christians that love gets thrown around very loosely and that God defines what love is. And that's well defined in 1 Corinthians 13. So Seth is going to read that little section. And if you're familiar with this or not, even if you've never went to church, you've probably heard this at a wedding somewhere or on a movie taking place at a wedding. So without further ado, 1 Corinthians 13, I think verses 4 through the beginning of 8. Then what I'm going to do is I am going to very briefly, and I mean briefly, read through the background or meanings of those words and verses that Paul uses. And then we're going to listen to songs and we're going to see if the love song actually is a love song. And we're going to use these verses as a test to see if it's good, bad, or ugly. So we're super excited. I think this is going to be awesome. The very first song we're going to do, I'm sure you guessed it, is What's Love Got to Do with It by Tina Turner. But we have so many good ones lined up. You're going to love this. So without further ado, here we go.
Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not jealous. Love does not brag. It is not arrogant. It does not act unbecomingly. It does not seek its own. It is not provoked. It does not take into account a wrong suffered. It does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices with the truth. Love hears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Love never fails.
All right, I'm not going to belabor this. You have the internet. You can Google if you want to get deeper into this. So this is just something I printed out. And it's by evangelist Kyle Pope. I don't know who this is. If you've heard of him, then congratulations. So I'm going to walk right through this. So the first thing is love. Love here is a Greek word, agape, defined as affection, goodwill, love, or benevolence. Some other translations use the word charity. I think King James uses charity. The next word is suffers long. This Greek word is compounded of the words for long and suffering or passion. And it's referred to as being patient many times in the Bible, especially in the book of James. Let's see where I'm at here. Okay, love does not seek its own. This is, the meaning here is the things of himself or herself. So love is not self-absorbed. It is also not provoked. This means to make angry or to burn with anger. Love thinks no evil. This word means to reckon, to count, to compute, to calculate, to reckon inwardly. It keeps no record of wrongs. Really cool. A side note here is the actual Greek word is where we get the word or the idea of an accountant. So, you know, when you hire an accountant and at the end of the year, they're like logging in all of your taxes and all the things you're spending money on. That's the idea that Paul is giving. Love keeps no record of wrongs. And the idea here is we're not supposed to get historical with people, especially with the people we're closest with, which is unfortunately a lot of times what happens. We get historical and remember everything that they've done wrong. And Paul says that's not what love does. Let's see. Love does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. Now, this becomes very important. Godly love does not get joy from or welcome error. And this ties into what I said before. The world throws around love as having no parameters and no boundaries. But that's not the kind of love that God talks about here. He says love does not rejoice in error, but rejoices in truth. So that's very important going forward in understanding these videos, or understanding what true love is in the world just today. So the word iniquity means wrongdoing, misdeeds, unrighteousness, etc. So that becomes very important, because if you're claiming you're doing a loving thing, but the Bible says that that thing is actually wrong or evil, then that's not the loving thing. Love does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. And of course, God, that's God's truth. Okay, love does not envy. That means, in a good sense, generous, noble aspirations. It's not envious of others. That's something invisible. You know, it's like when you go back to your high school reunion or your college reunion, and maybe you were more talented or gifted in your mind than someone else, and you go back and see that you're, in one place and they are at another, and it's easy to become envious. And Paul says that love does not act that way. He also says love does not parade itself or is not puffed up. That's probably a King James version there. But I love the idea. It doesn't boast, is what most of us hear when we read this. But it does not parade itself. It does not puffed up. I mean, it's such a cool word picture. It's not inflated. It's not arrogant. It doesn't swell up. And we've all met people like that. They're missionaries unto themselves. So it's either they're going around always talking about how great they are, or they find ways for other people to tell about how great they are. Love does not behave rudely. Let's see what that means. To behave in an unbecoming manner. To behave in a manner open to censoring. I love that, because I guess, you know how you go, I don't know if they even have this anymore, but back in the day, there was little parental stickers on DVDs or CDs for those who are older than 30 or 40, who's got the gray hair. But they would always have this little parental sticker on there. And Paul is saying love does not act rudely. And I guess the question would be, could you, if people were to watch your life, would they put in explicit lyrics or explicit life over your life? If that's the case, then you're doing something wrong. Okay, let's see here. And then let's wrap up with, it believes all things and hopes all things. And I think this is important. He says that the idea here is that love is not gullible, but rather it's a godly love and a godly hope. It expects the best. Paul is not for a moment teaching that Christians should literally believe all truth, is that everyone that claims to have truth is actually telling the truth or should be believed as truth. I think that's important, because believes all things, hopes all things. Remember, there's a specific context, and the context is what God has already spoken, and that's the scriptures. Okay, endures all things. This is the difference between, we already spoke to long suffering, but this is the endurance of adverse and infliction. So when you're going through tough times, that you continue to put your head down and move forward and stick with your commitments. And then finally, you have love never fails. And this kind of wraps everything back up. The author says the love God exemplifies towards us in the gospel of Jesus Christ will never come to an end. And I didn't think about this very much before I read that earlier today. Why is that important? Because if you're honest with yourself, you have failed in some way, shape, or form in all of these. Or there's maybe a handful that you do really well, or you struggle in one or two. And what's cool about this is speaking of God's love. In other words, even in spite of you failing through those things, God's love, his incredible affection towards his children, he's going to remain faithful because of his binding love. So that's a word of encouragement. All right, without further ado, we're going to get into the song. Again, that was not meant to be exhaustive. You can get online and go ahead and read through those again, and I'm sure you're going to find a ton of stuff. But for our purposes, we want to test and see if these love songs are in fact true love songs. So this is our first one. I hope you like it. This is Tina Turner, What's Love Got to Do with It?
Already very 1980s. like the 80s. Does this bring you back at all?
I'm not an 80s kid. I'm a 90s kid.
Yeah, but like you're never mind.
Shout out to the 90s kids.
You must understand the touch of your hand makes my pulse react. That it's only the thrill of boy meeting girl opposites attract. It's physical, only logical. You must try to ignore that it means more than that. Oh, what's love got to do? Got to do with it. What's love but a second-hand emotion? What's love got to do? Got to do with it. Who needs a heart when a heart can be broken? It may seem to you that I'm acting confused when you're close to me.
We're going to be doing our review, but if you have any insights into this song too, drop in the comments. And also, was this a number one hit for Tina? How high did this get in the charts, if you remember? And also, if you saw her live in concert, I want to hear about it. Seth wants to hear about it too.
If I tend to look dazed, I read it someplace. I've got cause to be. There's a name for it. There's a phrase that fits. But whatever the reason, you do it for me. Oh, what's love got to do? Got to do with it. What's love but a second-hand emotion? What's love got to do? Got to do with it. Who needs a heart when a heart can be broken?
That's the second time that happened in one of the videos.
One of the things that me and Pastor Anthony love is when lyric videos, and shout out to whoever did this, is when there's like an interlude moment and they just do like the who's and they spell out the who's or the ohs. It's like it's oh, it's so funny.
What is this? What is that instrument right there? Is that a ukulele? Is that a harmonica? What is that thing? It's like a little, no? For a ukulele.
Small guitar, so.
But I have to say, I've been thinking about my own protection. It scares me to feel this way. Oh, what's love got to do? Got to do with it. What's love but a second-hand emotion? What's love got to do? Got to do with it. Who needs a heart when a heart can be broken? What's got to do? Got to do with it. What's love but a sweet old-fashioned notion? What's love got to do? Got to do with it. Who needs a heart when a heart can be broken?
Got to do.
Ooh, got to do with
I
it.
could be a background singer in one of these songs.
What's love got to do? Got to do with it. Who needs a heart when a heart can be broken?
Oh yeah, you can definitely do it. Yeah.
Huh?
Oh, yeah. This was on the album Private Dancer.
Private Dancer. If you had the album, I want to hear about it. What other songs are on that album that we would know?
Yeah, so I just this was This one person's comment is funny. Well, okay, I don't know why. I did not know that this song was about a woman just wanting to get down to business without there being any sort of like relational or romantic meaning behind it. I don't know why. Then the title pretty much gives that away, but I'm always fascinated by popular songs that get played on commercials and at Walmart and Target, that it's like, if you stop and listen to the lyrics, like, oh, okay, this is what we're playing for a family-friendly place, you know?
Well, I mean, part of this whole thing is about being discerning. We want to help you become discerning, and you raise an excellent point. If you were just to, if I were to give you these lyrics and you never heard the song, you'd go, wow, that's kind of I don't know how great that message is. I mean, I think the message is pretty clear here. It looks like she's been hurt. She's come out of some kind of painful relationship, and she's looking for either a one-night stand or just these hookups. She says things that's only the thrill. It's physical, it's logical. Love is a secondhand emotion. She even refers to it as a sweet, old-fashioned notion at one point. You have to ignore if it means more than that. So this is about just being physical with someone. Really, it's just about casual sex, really. Mm-hmm. So, again, she's not trying to pretend it's not, because the title of the song is, What's Love Got to Do with It? And she's asking a question. But for our purposes of being discerning, I think this fails the 1 Corinthians test pretty badly. And I feel bad for you if you don't think that it does. Even the staunch unbeliever, when you see, what Paul is writing in 1 Corinthians, and when you put it right up against that, it's pretty clear that it's not anywhere near that. It's everything about self and doing what you want. So it fails our 1 Corinthians 13 test. So sorry, Tina, if this video gets back to you, fails. If you have any questions, you can maybe even become a person that comes on our show in the future. We can discuss that. But as for now, it looks like Seth has a quote here.
Yeah, well, one of the things that in the lyrics that I thought was kind of very important, and probably a lot of people in our current generation can testify to, because I've heard it a lot. I've seen it on Facebook a lot. I've seen it on Instagram a lot. Is he said, when she says, "Who needs a heart when a heart can be broken?" One of the things I've heard a lot of people say is this whole idea of, what's the point in giving your heart to someone when they're just going to break your heart? And one of my favorite quotes by this on that topic is from C.S. Lewis in his book, The Four Loves, who has this quote: "To love at all is to be vulnerable. Love anything and your heart will be wrung and possibly broken. If you want to make sure of keeping it intact, you must give it to no one, not even an animal. Wrap it around carefully around with hobbies and little luxuries. Avoid all entanglements. Lock it up safe in the casket or coffin of your selfishness. But in that casket, safe, dark, motionless, airless, it will change. It will not only be broken, but it will become unbreakable, unpenetrable, irredeemable. To love anything is to be vulnerable." So what C.S. Lewis is saying is, he's saying, you think a broken heart is bad. If you give your heart to no one, if you allow your heart to become hardened and you just let it, basically harden with your selfishness, the end result of that is going to be far worse and far more painful and devastating than if you just let someone break your heart. So to his point, go ahead and give your heart to someone or something with the possibility of it being broken, because one, that's what makes us human. Two, that's what God designed us to do, is to love and to live selflessly. And you don't want to go down that road of hardening your heart to the point where it's become, as he said, unpenetrable and irredeemable.
Very good. I'm glad you brought that quote in. All right, well, we have so much more for you. This is the first of many love songs. If you think we should review a song, drop it in the comments. We are open to any and all suggestions. If you have not already done so and you've been blessed by this channel and think other people can too, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, and that'll help promote this channel. All right, this is Pastor Anthony, Seth Walters, hanging out in Gage Studios, saying we look forward to connecting with you next time.